The twin suns of New Terra glowed above the silver skyline, pouring golden light over streets made of steel and glass. Humans and aliens moved side by side, busy, rushing, and lost in their own worlds. Among them was a man named Ethan Cole, a 30-year-old worker in Starport Logistics, the largest cargo company on the planet. He wore a faded uniform and carried a small lunchbox. Walking fast through the crowded plaza, his eyes were tired, his hair messy, and his badge flashed red every time he passed a checkpoint. Reminding him he was late again, Ethan had been running all week, trying to survive another month in this new world where machines did most of the work. He didn't hate his job, but he hated how small it made him feel. Every morning, he told himself to just make it through the day, to keep his head down, to not cause trouble. He had learned that kindness slowed you down, and in this city, slow people got left behind, but fate had other plans. As he turned a corner near the plaza fountain, something caught his eye. An alien woman, old, fragile, with blue-tinted skin, stumbled on the curb and fell hard onto the metal walkway. Her bag rolled away, spilling strange glowing fruit and crystal bottles that shattered on the ground. The crowd kept moving, hundreds of people walking past as if nothing had happened. Some glanced, some frowned. But no one stopped. Ethan froze, his heart tightening. He knew that stopping meant losing more time, maybe his job. But something deep inside him whispered, "Help her." So he did. He rushed over and knelt beside the fallen alien. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, offering his hand. Her skin shimmered faintly in the light, cold to the touch. She tried to speak, but her voice trembled, her accent thick and strange. I am fine, young one," she whispered. Though clearly in pain, Ethan helped her sit up carefully. Picking up the scattered fruit and the cracked bottles, one of them leaked silver liquid that hissed softly against the ground. He didn't ask what it was, he just kept helping. When she tried to stand, her legs shook. Without thinking, Ethan placed his arm under hers to steady her. People stared, whispering, some even laughing quietly. Humans helping aliens wasn't forbidden, but it wasn't common either. Most people saw aliens as above them, too powerful, too strange, and helping one looked awkward. But Ethan didn't care. After a few moments, the alien woman straightened her robe and looked up at him. Her eyes glowed faintly gold, kind but sharp. "You have kind hands," she said slowly. "Few stop anymore," Ethan smiled shyly. "It's nothing, really. Anyone would have helped." But she shook her head. "No, not anyone," she said, and her voice carried a strange weight, almost like she knew something he didn't. He handed her the last piece of fruit and stepped back. "Take care, ma'am," he said. She gave him a long look, a mix of gratitude and sadness, before walking away slowly toward the upper district. Ethan stood there for a moment. Watching her disappear into the crowd, he didn't know her name, and he didn't expect to ever see her again. He wiped his hands, checked his watch, and his heart sank. He was 20 minutes late. He ran through the plaza, dodging between people. By the time he reached the Starport Tower, his face was red and his breath came hard. The security scanner beeped as he entered, the robotic voice saying, "Employee 442C, late entry recorded," he cursed under his breath. Taking the lift to level 14, his boss, Mr. Hargan, stood waiting by the loading bay, arms crossed, eyes sharp as knives. "You're late again," Hargan said coldly. "I can explain," Ethan began. "I don't care," his boss snapped. "You were late last week and the week before. This is your third strike." Ethan tried again, desperate. "I helped someone who fell. An old alien woman, she—" But Hargan cut him off. "You think helping random creatures matters more than this company?" The words hit hard. Hargan tapped a screen. "You're done here, Cole. Hand over your badge." Ethan's chest tightened. "You're firing me?" The man didn't even look at him. "Company policy, 3 strikes. Clean your locker." Ethan stood there in silence. Feeling the world spin, he wanted to argue, to scream that it wasn't fair, but he knew it wouldn't matter. He walked out of the building slowly, the sound of machines and footsteps echoing behind him. Outside, the wind was cold, sharp. He sat on a bench near the plaza, holding his lunchbox, staring at the traffic in the sky, silver ships cutting through the blue clouds. He thought about the woman, her eyes, her strange words. He wondered if she had made it home safely. Around him, the city kept moving, busy and bright. No one noticed the man sitting alone. He didn't know it yet, but someone was watching from above. High above the clouds, a ship hovered quietly, its sensors tracking him inside. An alien voice spoke softly. "The human has been marked." "The test is complete," another voice replied. Calm and deep. "Then we watch, and we wait." Ethan rubbed his eyes, unaware of the fate forming around him. All he knew was that he had lost his job for helping a stranger. He sighed, whispering to himself, "Maybe kindness doesn't pay after all." But Destiny had heard those words, and Destiny was already smiling. The price of kindness. The sun had started to set behind the tall towers of New Terra, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. Ethan sat quietly on the same bench where he had stopped earlier, the same one near the plaza where everything had changed. He watched the lights of air cars passing overhead, each one carrying people who had somewhere to go, something to do, someone waiting for them. He had none of those things now. He had lost his job again, but this time, it felt worse this time. It was for doing something right. He opened his small lunchbox, not because he was hungry, but because it was the only thing he had left from the day. Inside was a half sandwich, a bottle of water, and an ID badge that no longer worked. He turned the badge over in his hand, seeing his reflection in the small metal surface. His brown eyes looked tired, empty, and behind them, a question kept whispering. Why does kindness always cost so much? The plaza was almost empty now. Shops were closing, and cleaning drones floated quietly, sweeping dust and glowing scraps into the waste bins. The night air was cool, and the twin moons of New Terra had started to rise, one white, one pale red. Ethan leaned back, closing his eyes, trying to forget the day. But the memory of that old alien lady kept returning. Her trembling hands, her soft voice, and her strange words. "You have kind hands." It was strange how a few words could stay in your head like an echo. Suddenly, a small sound broke the silence. A metallic ping. Ethan opened his eyes and saw something lying near his feet. It looked like a coin, but it shimmered faintly blue. Glowing from within, he picked it up, and the moment his fingers touched it, warmth spread through his hand. The glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat. He looked around, but there was no one near. He frowned, thinking maybe it had dropped from someone passing by, but deep inside, something told him it wasn't an accident. He placed the coin in his pocket, feeling a little strange but not scared. He stood up and began walking home, or at least to the small room he rented in the workers' block across the industrial zone. The streets were empty except for a few security drones scanning the alleys. When he reached his building, the auto door scanned his ID but flashed red. "Access denied. Employment terminated," the robotic voice said coldly. Ethan sighed. "Figures," he muttered. Without a job, he had no access, no place to sleep. He sat down by the side of the building, resting his back against the wall, watching the stars between the towers. Hours passed. The city never truly slept. But there were quiet moments when even the air seemed still. Ethan looked at the glowing coin again, wondering where it came from. It was warm, almost alive. He thought about throwing it away, but somehow he couldn't. He held it close to his chest, whispering to himself, "At least someone left me something." He didn't know that somewhere. Miles above, a signal had just been sent. A pulse of light shot through the sky, reaching ships that hid beyond the clouds. "On board one of those ships," a voice said. "The token has been accepted," another replied. "Then the human has passed the first trial." Back on the ground, Ethan began to drift into sleep. He dreamed of strange worlds, glowing forests, floating cities and oceans made of light. In his dream, he saw the old alien woman again, standing in the middle of a shining bridge between stars. She looked younger now, stronger, her voice echoing in his head. "Do not regret kindness, Ethan Cole. It always returns." He tried to ask her what she meant, but before he could speak, everything faded. He woke up suddenly, the city lights blinking around him for a moment. He wasn't sure if it had been a dream or something more. The next morning he walked to the job center. Hoping to find any kind of work, the clerk barely looked at him. Just tapped the screen and said, "No openings today." Ethan nodded silently. Walking back toward the plaza again, he passed people laughing, talking, living their lives. It felt strange. He had done one good thing, yet somehow, he was the one being punished for it, but inside, a small part of him still believed there was more to come. The glowing coin in his pocket pulsed once, almost like it agreed. That evening he returned to the same bench. The sky was turning orange and blue again, the air buzzing with hovercar noise. He sat there, watching the fountain's lights reflect on the glass walls of the city. For a while it was peaceful, until he noticed something odd. The people around him began to look up. Their faces pale. He followed their gaze and froze. High above the skyline, the sky shimmered. Something huge moved behind the clouds, its shadow covering half the plaza. Then, beams of blue light began to break through. People screamed, running in all directions. Ethan stood, heart racing, clutching the coin in his pocket. He didn't know what was happening, but deep inside, he felt one truth. This had something to do with her. Sirens wailed, drones filled the sky, and military ships launched from the starport. The ground trembled as the sky began to open. Through the clouds, massive shapes appeared. Not one, not 10, but hundreds. Gigantic ships made of metal and light, silent and terrifying. The world held its breath, and then a voice spoke across the city, echoing in every mind. "To the human who showed mercy, your kindness has been seen." Ethan's eyes widened. His knees felt weak. He looked at the glowing coin, which now shined brighter than ever. He whispered to himself, "What did I do?" The crowd screamed again as the ships hovered lower, their lights bathing the plaza in blue. People shouted, cried. Some fell to their knees in fear. But Ethan didn't move. He just stared at the sky. The same warmth he had felt in the coin now spread through his whole body. The voice spoke again, calm and powerful. "Do not fear, human. We come in peace and in gratitude." And then the ship stopped moving, silent, waiting. The world would never be the same again, and neither would Ethan Cole, the stranger. The next night, the city was quieter than usual. The air still carried fear, and people spoke in whispers about what they had seen. Some said it was an invasion, others said it was a miracle. No one really knew the truth. The government tried to calm everyone, saying it was a scientific event, but everyone knew better. Hundreds of alien ships had hovered above New Terra for almost an hour, lighting up the sky, and then they had vanished, leaving no trace, no sound, no damage, only confusion. Ethan had spent the whole day trying to make sense of it. He had seen those ships with his own eyes. He had heard that voice, and deep down he knew they were speaking to him. The glowing coin he kept in his pocket had stopped shining now, but it was still warm. He didn't show it to anyone, didn't tell anyone what he'd heard. He was afraid no one would believe him. He was just a man who had lost his job, after all. Who would believe a man like him had spoken to the sky? That night, Ethan sat by the old fountain again, the same place where he had met the alien woman. The city lights reflected in the water like tiny stars. He stared at them, lost in thought. Every few minutes he would glance at the sky, half expecting the ships to return. But the sky remained still, peaceful, pretending nothing strange had ever happened. He sighed and leaned back. "Maybe I'm just going crazy," he whispered. But then the air around him changed. A soft humming sound filled the air, low and steady. Almost like music, he turned and his heart jumped. A figure stood near the edge of the fountain, glowing faintly blue. For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. It was her. The same old alien woman he had helped days ago. But she didn't look weak anymore. She stood tall and straight, her skin glowing brighter than before, and her eyes shining like tiny suns. "Ethan Cole," she said softly. Her voice calm and powerful. He froze. You know my name?" She nodded, smiling gently. "I know much more than that." He took a step back, unsure if he was dreaming. "What's happening? Who are you?" The woman looked at him kindly. When you helped me, you did not know who I was. You saw only someone in need and you chose to help, even when your world would not." Ethan swallowed hard. "And because of that, I lost everything." Her expression softened. "Perhaps, but sometimes you must lose what you have to find what you were meant for." The words hit him deep. He didn't fully understand them, but something about her voice made his chest ache, like hearing a truth he had known all along. The fountain's light flickered, and the air around her shimmered again. She took a step closer, her presence warm and heavy, almost divine. "My name is Salira," she said. "I am of the Velara Council. Guardians of the Accord Worlds." Ethan blinked, confused. "Accord Worlds? Guardians?" Salira smiled faintly. "You would call it the Galactic Alliance." Ethan's eyes widened. "Wait, the Velara? That's one of the strongest alien empires in the galaxy." She nodded slowly. "Yes, and yet you helped me without fear. Without gain, without knowing who I was." She raised her hand, and light began to form around them, small particles floating like fireflies. Ethan took a step back, but the light felt gentle. Salira's voice grew softer. "You gave kindness freely, Ethan Cole, and the stars do not forget such things." Before he could speak, the ground beneath him disappeared. For a moment, everything turned white. He felt himself floating, weightless, silent. Then suddenly the light cleared. Ethan gasped. He was no longer in the city. He stood inside a massive hall made of crystal and silver, walls pulsing faintly with light. It was beautiful beyond words. Hundreds of alien beings stood in circles around him, tall, elegant, glowing in soft colors. Their eyes followed him, calm but curious. At the center of the room, a great symbol glowed above the floor. The crest of the Velara. Ethan felt small, almost invisible. What is this place?" he whispered. Salira stood beside him, her robe flowing like liquid light. "This," she said softly, "is the Hall of Balance, where decisions that shape galaxies are made." He stared around, amazed. "Why am I here?" Salira turned toward the council, her voice clear. "Because he reminded us that compassion still lives among humans," the aliens murmured quietly, their voices blending like wind through chimes. Ethan couldn't understand their words, but he felt their emotions, surprise, doubt, curiosity. One alien, tall and armored, stepped forward. "He is only a worker," the being said. Its tone deep and metallic. Salira nodded. "Yes, and yet he acted like a leader of hearts." Another alien, with translucent skin, spoke. "Why bring him here?" Salira replied. "Because the universe is shifting, and soon, kindness will matter more than power." Ethan listened, not understanding everything, but his heart raced. He wasn't supposed to be here, yet somehow, he felt he was exactly where he needed to be. Salira turned back to him. "Ethan, you gave what you could when you had almost nothing left. And now, something greater is being given to you." She held out her hand, and a sphere of light appeared between her palms, glowing bright gold. "This is the seed of unity," she said, "a symbol of trust between your kind and ours." Ethan looked at it, mesmerized. "What do you want me to do with it?" he asked quietly. Salira smiled. "You will know when the time comes." The light around them began to fade, and Ethan felt the ground again. The next thing he knew, he was standing back by the fountain. The night was silent. The city normal again, but in his hands, the glowing sphere remained, warm, bright, and real. He looked up at the sky, whispering, "What's happening to me?" From far above, unseen ships glowed softly in the clouds, and Salira's voice echoed faintly in his mind. "The stars are watching, Ethan Cole. The test has only just begun." The hidden world, when Ethan opened his eyes, the world around him was glowing. He blinked, trying to adjust. But the light was everywhere, bright, soft, alive. The air itself shimmered like liquid glass, and strange, beautiful shapes floated in the distance. He realized he was standing on a transparent bridge that stretched endlessly through the stars. Below him, oceans of light moved slowly, glowing in colors he had never seen before. He felt no weight, no wind, only warmth. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful, he whispered softly. "Where am I?" A familiar voice answered, calm and kind. "Welcome, Ethan Cole, to the inner world of the Velara." He turned quickly, and there she was, Salira, the alien woman he had helped. She was no longer frail or tired, her silver skin shone like polished metal, and her robe flowed like mist made of light. Around her neck a blue crystal pulsed gently. Ethan stared, breathless. This is real?" Salira smiled. "As real as your kindness." She gestured toward the glowing horizon. "This is a world hidden between dimensions, a meeting place of minds and hearts. Not just bodies." Ethan looked down again, watching small orbs of light drift beneath his feet. Each orb showed images, cities, people, stars, and like memories trapped in bubbles. "What are those?" he asked. "Echoes," Salira replied. "Reflections of choices made across time." He frowned. "Choices?" She nodded. "Every act of kindness creates ripples that never die, Ethan. What you did, it reached far beyond your world." Ethan listened quietly, still struggling to believe any of this was real. He had been a simple worker, nothing special, just a man trying to survive, and now he was standing in a place that looked like the heart of the universe. Salira turned and began to walk down the bridge, her steps leaving trails of soft light. "Come," she said. "The council waits." He followed her through enormous gates that opened silently as they approached. Beyond them was a vast chamber, larger than anything Ethan had ever seen. Hundreds of beings floated above glowing platforms, their shapes shifting like clouds and light. Some were tall and armored, others were transparent. Some moved like flowing water. All of them turned as Salira entered. Their eyes, or what looked like eyes, focusing on Ethan. He felt small, fragile, and completely out of place. Salira spoke clearly, her voice echoing across the chamber. "This is the human Ethan Cole, the one who stopped when all others walked away." A low murmur filled the air. Like distant thunder, one of the beings floated closer, its voice deep and powerful. "You bring a single man before the council of the Velara?" "Yes," Salira replied calmly. "Because a single act can change the course of history." Ethan shifted nervously, his hands shaking. I don't understand any of this," he said. "I just helped someone who fell." The tall being leaned closer, its eyes glowing orange. "And for that, you lost your place in your world." Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I guess I did." The being's voice softened. "And yet you do not regret it?" Ethan looked up, meeting its eyes. "No, I don't. It was the right thing to do." The room fell silent. Salira smiled faintly, and for a moment, even the glowing walls seemed to breathe. She turned to the council. "This is what humanity still carries, the courage to do good when it costs them everything," the council murmured again. This time in agreement, finally the same being spoke. "Then he is worthy," Ethan frowned. "Worthy of what?" Salira stepped forward, raising her hand. A beam of golden light appeared above him. Swirling like a living flame, within it floated a crystal sphere, glowing brighter and brighter. "This," Salira said softly, "is the seed of unity, an ancient relic that binds empathy across species, across worlds." Ethan stared in awe as the light surrounded him. The warmth filled his chest, reaching deep into his heart. "What does it do?" he asked. Salira smiled. "It listens, it learns, and it remembers every heart that chooses compassion over fear." The light pulsed once, then sank into Ethan's chest, leaving a faint mark that glowed like starlight beneath his skin. Ethan gasped. "What was that?" "The beginning of your purpose," Salira replied gently. "You have been chosen, Ethan Cole, as the bridge between our people." He blinked, stunned. "Me? I'm nobody." Salira's eyes softened. "The stars do not choose by status. They choose by spirit." He looked around at the vast hall, the hundreds of alien eyes watching him. He wanted to run, to wake up, to believe it was all a dream. But deep inside, something told him this was real. All of it. Salira placed a hand on his shoulder, warm and steady. "Go back to your world," she said. "Live as you always have. But know this, when the time comes, the seed will awaken, And you will understand your role. Ethan stared at her. Will I ever see you again? Salira smiled, her voice soft. I am always watching. Ethan Cole. The light around them began to fade again. The world of the Velara shimmered, dissolving into stars. Ethan felt his body grow heavy, the air thick. The sound of traffic slowly returning. When he opened his eyes again, he was back on the city bench near the fountain. The night was calm, the plaza quiet. He looked down. His hands still glowed faintly for a moment, then dimmed. He could still feel the warmth of the seed in his chest, beating softly like another heart. He whispered to himself, "What have I become?" And somewhere above the city, beyond the clouds, unseen eyes watched and smiled. The universe had chosen its messenger. And the story of Ethan Cole was only just beginning. The gift, when Ethan opened his eyes, morning light was spilling across the plaza. The air was warm. The city alive again with the hum of traffic and voices. For a few moments he sat quietly on the bench, blinking at the sky, wondering if everything that had happened was just a dream. The shining world, the alien council, Salira's calm voice. It all felt unreal. But then, he felt it, a faint warmth inside his chest. A steady pulse that wasn't his heartbeat. The seed of unity. It was still there. Glowing softly within him, Ethan stood and stretched, his body surprisingly light. He looked around and noticed something strange. People were smiling at him, strangers who usually ignored him. A woman waved good morning. A vendor offered him a free drink. For the first time in weeks, he felt seen. He didn't know if it was his imagination or something more, but deep inside, he felt that the universe had shifted, even if just a little. He walked through the city, taking in every sound, every color. The air seemed clearer, brighter, almost alive. Even the pigeons that always fought near the fountain were calm, cooing softly. Ethan chuckled to himself, shaking his head. Maybe I'm losing it, he muttered. But when he passed a sick child sitting by the street corner, the seed inside him pulsed gently. He stopped, feeling that same warmth spread through his chest. Without thinking, he walked over and handed the boy his sandwich. The child smiled, and at that exact moment, a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds. It was as if the universe itself was smiling back. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen around Ethan. Wherever he went, small miracles seemed to follow. The food stalls he passed sold out faster. The broken lamp outside his old building started working again. And the sick dog that had slept by the alley suddenly stood up and ran. People began to notice him, not for who he was, but for how they felt when he was near. They said his presence was calm, peaceful, as if he carried light within him. And in truth he did, one night. As he sat by the window of a small diner watching the sky, he saw something move far above the city, a faint shimmer, like starlight flickering behind the clouds. He smiled softly, whispering, "You're still watching, aren't you?" Salira. He didn't know if she could hear him, but a warm glow pulsed faintly in his chest, a quiet answer. Later that week, Ethan visited the job center again. The clerk looked up in surprise. "You again?" she said. "There's a position open at the research district. Cleaning work, not much pay." Ethan nodded. "I'll take it." The woman hesitated. "You seem different," he smiled. "Maybe I am." That evening, he started his new job, sweeping floors and clearing scraps in the laboratories of the new Terra science hub. It wasn't glamorous, but he was grateful as he worked. He overheard scientists whispering about the mysterious appearance of alien ships and the strange energy readings found afterward. They didn't know what caused it. Ethan smiled to himself. He knew. And as he passed one of the rooms, he paused. On the screen was a glowing image. It was the same golden symbol he had seen in the Hall of Balance. His heart skipped a beat. Before he could step closer, a security guard approached. "Hey, you're not supposed to be in here." Ethan nodded quickly. "Sorry, just cleaning." He walked away, but the image burned in his mind. Something told him his story with the Velara wasn't over. The seed inside him pulsed again, soft and rhythmic, like a whisper from the stars. That night, as he walked home, the streets were unusually quiet. He passed a group of workers arguing by a broken energy terminal. The lights were out, and the machines were dead. One of them kicked the box in frustration. "We'll lose power for hours," he said. Ethan stopped, staring at the dark terminal. For some reason, his hand moved on its own. He placed his palm against the cold metal. The seed in his chest glowed, sending warmth through his arm. A faint hum filled the air. And suddenly, the machine came alive, lights flickering back on. The workers gasped. "What did you do?" Ethan stepped back, speechless. I don't know." He turned and walked away quickly. His heart pounding, the seed glowed stronger now. As if it was waking up, back in his small room, Ethan sat on his bed, breathing hard. He held his chest, feeling the steady light within him. "Salira," he whispered, "what's happening to me?" And in that moment, he heard her voice again, soft, distant but clear. "You were given the gift, Ethan Cole. It awakens when the heart remembers why it was chosen." He looked at his hands, glowing faintly in the dark. "Chosen for what?" he asked, but the voice faded, leaving only silence and the gentle pulse of light. Outside, the stars above New Terra began to shimmer strangely. Tiny streaks of blue light appeared, moving across the night sky like slow comets. Ethan watched from his window, the glow from his chest matching their rhythm. He didn't know what they meant, but deep inside he felt something was coming. "Something big," he whispered softly. "Whatever this is." "I'll be ready," the stars pulsed once, as if answering his promise. And far beyond New Terra, deep in the cold dark of space, the Velara ship stirred again, watching, waiting, and preparing for what was about to unfold. The gift. The first morning after his encounter with the Velara felt different. The city looked the same. Tall towers, floating cars, glowing signs. But to Ethan, everything seemed new, alive, and almost breathing. He stood near the plaza fountain, sunlight touching his face. He could still feel the warmth of the seed inside his chest, pulsing softly like a second heartbeat. He touched his shirt gently, whispering to himself, "It's real." I know it's real. The people passing by barely noticed him. Yet Ethan sensed something unusual. The same vendor who used to ignore him waved cheerfully and said, "Good morning." A little girl who sold flowers ran up to him and gave him one for free. Smiling, even the pigeons on the plaza didn't fight like before. They simply circled around him peacefully. Ethan didn't understand it, but he could feel it. The world was responding to him differently now. It was as if invisible strings connected his heart to everything around him. He walked through the city, seeing beauty where he once saw chaos. The neon signs reflected in puddles. The hum of hovercars sounded like a rhythm. The laughter of strangers felt like music. For years he had believed the city was cold, heartless, and empty. Now, it felt like it had been waiting for him to notice. Ethan smiled quietly, unaware that far above, the Velara were watching his every step that night. He returned to his small, rented room in the workers' block. He placed his hand over his chest again, feeling the steady warmth. When he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of light, stars, galaxies, shapes moving in slow motion. He saw Salira's face, calm and glowing, her voice echoing softly. "The gift will grow when the heart remembers why it was chosen," he whispered. "But I don't know why." No answer came. Only silence and the quiet hum of the seed. The next day, as he walked past a dark alley, Ethan noticed a small dog lying on the ground, trembling. Its leg was wounded, and people just passed by pretending not to see. Ethan knelt beside it. "Hey, little one," he said softly. He reached out to touch it, and the moment his hand brushed its fur, the seed inside his chest pulsed. A faint golden light ran down his arm and into the dog's body. Within seconds, the trembling stopped, and the wound began to close. The dog stood, wagging its tail, and licked his hand. Ethan stared, shocked, his heart pounding. What was that?" he whispered. The seed pulsed once more, warm and calm, as if answering that evening. He went back to the diner where he sometimes ate. The old owner greeted him with a grin. "You've got good luck these days, kid. Haven't seen you this bright in a while." Ethan laughed softly. Maybe luck's just smiling for once. He didn't tell anyone about what happened with the dog, or the strange light he saw, some things felt too big, too sacred to explain. Over the next week, small miracles kept happening wherever he went. A broken streetlight flickered to life as he walked beneath it. A crying baby stopped the moment Ethan smiled at her. Even the plants in his room, which had been dry for months, began to bloom again. He felt lighter every day, but with that lightness came a question that wouldn't go away. Why me? He asked himself again and again. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't rich or smart or powerful. He was just a man who once stopped to help a stranger. One evening, as the sun set behind the towers, the city lights began to flicker strangely. He looked up and saw faint streaks of blue light moving across the sky. They were beautiful, slow, shimmering trails like falling stars. But no one else seemed to notice them. Ethan whispered, "Is that you, Salira?" The warmth in his chest deepened for a moment, answering his question with silence that felt like understanding. Later that night, he was walking home when he saw a group of workers struggling near a power terminal. The system had shut down, and sparks were flying. "Back up, it's dead." "We'll have to wait till morning," one man shouted. Ethan looked at the terminal, feeling that strange pull again. He stepped closer, ignoring their protests, and placed his hand on the metal surface. The seed inside him blazed like a small sun, sending a wave of golden light through his arm. The air shimmered, and with a single pulse, the terminal came back to life, lights flaring across the street. The men stepped back in shock, staring at Ethan. "What did you do?" one asked. Ethan shook his head slowly. I'm not sure." He turned and walked away, his heart racing, the seed still glowing faintly under his shirt. When he reached his room, he sat down on the edge of his bed, shaking slightly. He held his chest and whispered, "Salira, what's happening to me?" And then, like before, he heard her voice. Soft, distant, but clear. "You were given the gift, Ethan Cole. It is not a weapon. It is a light. It listens to the heart, and it moves when compassion does." He took a deep breath. "What am I supposed to do with it?" Her voice faded like an echo, leaving only a whisper. "When the darkness rises, you will know." Ethan stared out the window, his reflection glowing faintly in the glass. He could see the stars above New Terra, brighter than he had ever seen them before. The seed pulsed once, and far away, among the stars, something pulsed back. He didn't know it yet. But the universe had already chosen him for what was coming next. He whispered to himself, "Maybe kindness really does change everything." And somewhere beyond the clouds, hundreds of silent ships waited, watching, listening, ready to answer when the light of the gift called again. The test a week had passed since the night the city lights had flickered under the strange blue sky. Life on New Terra had begun to calm again, but only on the surface. People still whispered about the ships that had appeared and vanished without a trace. The news called it an energy phenomenon. Scientists called it a coincidence. But deep down, everyone knew it was something far greater. And Ethan Cole, the man who once had nothing, could feel it in every heartbeat. The seed inside his chest pulsed with quiet energy. As if waiting for something, he tried to live normally again, sweeping floors, fixing terminals, smiling politely to people who no longer ignored him. But every night he felt the pull of the stars, a faint voice whispering at the edge of his thoughts. It wasn't fear anymore. It was anticipation. He could sense a storm coming, one that the world wasn't ready for. That storm arrived sooner than anyone expected. It began with a vibration under the city. Machines flickered, drones fell from the air, and lights went dark across the lower districts. Ethan was in the science hub when alarms started ringing. Researchers ran through the halls, shouting about an energy surge from deep space. He turned toward the large window just in time to see the sky splitting open again. But this time the light was red, not blue, and it wasn't peaceful. A fleet of dark ships emerged from the clouds, their shapes jagged and sharp, glowing with crimson symbols that burned like fire. "Those aren't Velara," a scientist gasped. Before Ethan could ask, a massive shockwave hit the city, shattering glass and sending debris flying. The lights died completely, and the sky filled with thunder. People screamed as smaller ships descended, firing beams that tore through the air. Panic spread like wildfire. Ethan stumbled outside, heart pounding, watching chaos unfold. The peaceful world of New Terra was under attack, and then he heard her voice again, echoing faintly inside his mind. "Ethan Cole." "The time has come, Salira," he whispered, gripping his chest. "What's happening?" "The Draxian have come," her voice replied, calm but heavy. "They destroy what they fear, and now they fear the unity we tried to build. What can I do?" He asked desperately. "I'm not a soldier." Her words rang like thunder. "You are more than that. You are the light they cannot understand." Another blast hit nearby. Knocking Ethan to the ground, he coughed, struggling to stand, and saw a group of children trapped under a collapsed structure. Without thinking, he ran toward them, lifting fallen metal with shaking hands. The seed flared, golden light pouring through his arms. The heavy beam rose easily, as if the air itself was helping him. He pulled the children out one by one, his heart racing. When the last one was safe, a massive shadow loomed behind him. A Draxian warrior, tall, armored in black steel, with red eyes like fire, stepped forward, raising its weapon. Ethan turned. The seed glowing fiercely in his chest, the alien roared, a sound like breaking metal, and swung. But before the blow could land, a wave of light erupted from Ethan. It threw the creature back like wind tearing through sand. The ground shook and golden sparks danced in the air. Ethan stared at his hands, glowing like molten stars. He didn't understand how, but he could feel the energy moving with his heartbeat. It wasn't power born of anger or fear. It was born of compassion. The same feeling that had made him stop for Salira long ago. The Draxian rose again, snarling, but stopped suddenly. Something in its eyes changed. The rage softened, replaced by confusion, then silence. Ethan realized his light wasn't burning the creature. It was calming it. The red glow around its armor dimmed, and the warrior slowly lowered its weapon. All around them, the chaos seemed to pause for a breath. People stared in disbelief. Ethan took a step closer, speaking softly. "You don't have to fight!" The creature looked at him for a long moment, then stepped back and vanished into the shadows. The seed pulsed again. Brighter than ever, above the city, the clouds parted, revealing hundreds of golden ships descending. The Velara fleet had returned. Their leader's voice filled the air, strong and clear. "Stand firm, human of the gift. Your courage has been seen." Ethan looked up, tears filling his eyes. "I'm just doing what I can," he whispered. Salira's voice returned warm and proud. "And that is enough." The Velara ships formed a protective shield around New Terra, pushing back the Draxion fleet with waves of light. Ethan stood in the middle of the plaza, the center of a golden storm. Energy flowed through him like sunlight through glass. Every time he thought of kindness, the light grew stronger, spreading through the city, touching hearts, calming fear. It was no longer just his power, it was humanity's. Every person who had ever chosen compassion over cruelty added to that glow. Finally, the sky cleared. The Draxian ships retreated and silence returned. The city stood still, broken but alive. People began to cheer, weep, and reach for each other. Ethan collapsed to his knees, exhausted, his body trembling. He looked up one last time at the glowing sky and heard Salira whisper, "The test is passed, Ethan Cole." "The universe remembers your light," he smiled faintly, whispering back. "Then maybe we're not as small as we think." The seed inside him pulsed one final time that night, brighter than ever, and for the first time in his life, Ethan felt complete. The legacy. The city of New Terra was quiet again. The fires were out, the sky was clear, and the people who had once lived in fear now stood beneath the twin suns, looking upward with hope instead of terror. The attack had ended, but the memory of what happened would never fade. Across the world, people spoke of the man who stood against the Draxian, not with weapons, but with light. His name was whispered in homes. On screens in every corner of the planet, Ethan Cole, the man who helped a stranger and changed the fate of worlds. Days passed and New Terra began to heal. Buildings were rebuilt, lives were restored, and for the first time in history, humans and aliens worked side by side without fear. Velara engineers helped stabilize the city's energy systems. Draxian soldiers, now freed from their leader's rage, assisted in reconstruction. And at the center of it all was Ethan, not as a hero wearing armor, but as a man who believed in kindness. He stood by the same fountain where it had all begun, the same spot where he once helped an old alien woman to her feet. The plaza was filled with people now, humans and aliens together, smiling, rebuilding, sharing food. A small child tugged at his sleeve and handed him a flower. Ethan smiled softly, kneeling to take it. "Thank you," he said. The flower's petals glowed faintly in the sunlight. Everything seemed brighter now, even the smallest things. That evening, the Velara ships appeared one last time above the city, not as warriors, but as friends. Salira herself descended in a column of golden light. Her presence calm and radiant, people gathered silent in awe. As she approached Ethan, he bowed slightly, still humble despite all that had happened. "You came back," he said softly. Salira smiled. "I never truly left." She looked around at the crowd, her voice echoing gently across the plaza. "This world has seen darkness and fear, yet through one act of kindness, you found light again?" She turned to Ethan, her golden eyes warm. "You reminded us that compassion can unite even the coldest hearts, and for that, the stars owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't do anything special, I just helped." Salira smiled wider. "That is what makes it special." From her hand, a beam of light appeared, forming a crystal shaped like a star. She placed it in his palm, and it glowed with a gentle warmth. "This is the mark of accord," she said. "It will remind all who see it that peace was born not from power, but from a simple choice to care." Ethan looked at the crystal, its light reflecting in his eyes. He felt tears build but didn't hold them back. "Thank you," he whispered, "for believing in me." Salira touched his shoulder gently. "It was your own heart that believed first." "Ethan Cole!" The crowd watched silently as the golden ships began to rise. Salira stepped back into the beam of light, her voice fading as she ascended. "Live well, human of the gift. Your story will travel farther than the stars." And then she was gone. The skies cleared again, leaving behind only trails of gold that faded into dusk. In the weeks that followed, Ethan became a symbol of hope across the planets. Humans and aliens began forming new councils, inspired by his courage. The story of the man with the glowing chest spread from world to world. Children in distant colonies learned his name before they learned their own constellations. The seed of unity, once hidden in Ethan's heart, became a message shared across galaxies. Kindness was no longer seen as weakness, but as the greatest power of all. Years passed, and Ethan grew older. He never sought fame, he never asked for reward. He spent his life helping wherever he could, rebuilding, teaching, and reminding others what truly mattered. And when people asked him what started it all, he would smile softly and say, "It began with an old woman who fell, and a blanket." Those words became a lesson passed down for generations, that no act of kindness is too small, because every light begins as a spark. One quiet evening, long after the stars had filled the sky, Ethan stood by the fountain once more. The city around him had changed. Taller, brighter, alive with peace, he watched the children play by the water, their laughter echoing through the streets. He felt the seed inside him glow faintly one last time. He looked up at the stars, whispering, "You kept your promise, Salira." For a moment, he thought he saw her, her figure made of light, smiling from the heavens. And then the sky shimmered as hundreds of Velara ships appeared briefly above the clouds, their lights forming a single message that every person could read. "The light of humanity shines forever." Ethan smiled, his heart full. He knew it was time. The glow in his chest brightened and slowly faded into the night sky, joining the stars above. And though his body rested, his light continued, carried by every act of kindness across the galaxies. For wherever compassion lived, the seed of unity still burned. And in the quiet corners of the universe, when someone helped another, a faint whisper could be heard. Ethan Cole, the human who cared,